Welcome to New Beginnings with Karen Delk, where we celebrate the creativity, courage, and wisdom of people creating change. We highlight those who chart new paths, make new life and career choices, and face turning points. We explore lessons that accompany changes, both welcome and unwelcome. New Beginnings covers topics from the worlds of business, education, health, and the arts. Our guests and the stories we share inspire viewers to make positive changes within their own lives and communities. Now here is our host, Karen Delk.
Delk, and I am so pleased to have joining me today Simone Sloan, who is a fellow coach and business strategist. And we're going to have an excellent conversation around what it's like to be an executive coach and business strategist, and then how we rejuvenate ourselves. So welcome, Simone. How are you?
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to have you on, and when we met a couple of months ago, we talked about how we rejuvenate ourselves. Given the climate that we're in, we're helping people who are stressed for a variety of reasons, not to mention just work, but other things that are going on in the world as well. And we conceived of this idea that I think is going to be fantastic for our viewers. But before we get started, I thought it would be good to hear a little bit about you and what led you into this work.
Sure. My background is that I am a pharmacist, and I do have the business degree of being an MBA. So I've spent a lot of my business training and development really in the healthcare and pharmaceutical realm. And really, when you look at it from that perspective and what I do now, the real themes around it has always been in service and helping people, whether it's in their health or in terms of their business, but getting to that next level of greatness. What led me to get to, in terms of stepping back and going into the coaching or strategy realm, was really around what was my next act and what I really wanted to do. And when I was really evaluating that, I stepped into a program that I did for about a year on coaching. It was truly a gift because I left there thinking, one, corporate America has no idea what they're doing with professional development. And then secondly, it was such a great gift, like I wanted to share this with so many other people. And so the best thing for me was to marry the business as well as the coaching element and really bring that gift to this community. Because I remember when I was doing my corporate gig, starting a tutoring company, and the many hats that you wear, the different decisions you have to make, it was just like, wow. And not having a partner or someone there to sort of, bounce things off of, and just having that strategies person there to kind of help guide you through that process was something that I said, it definitely is needed here. So that was my reason for doing what I'm doing today.
That's great. So now, is your target audience those in the healthcare, pharma realm, or are you open to all aspects of business?
That's very interesting. I would say I'm agnostic, but really when you look at it too, I really partner with a lot of the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs. I do the small business owners in the corporate world. Really, this business strategy piece comes in with the entrepreneurs and the small business owners, because either in terms of business acumen or in terms of where they are in their state, that's where it really gels well. The leadership piece is also is in there, ingrained in there also, but in terms of the executive leadership part comes on the larger organizations where they have that. And what I really do with the entrepreneurs and small business owners are really around the business plans, the pitches. They're really looking at their processes and having them step back a bit to kind of understand where they are in their business and what the vision is and how they're going to get there. With the larger organizations around, I do a lot of emerging leadership workshops, team effectiveness, and then like the one-on-one coachings with those individuals.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So what are you finding? What are the trends that you're seeing now with your, the two client groups, the entrepreneurs? What are some of the things that they're faced with? And then in the leadership realm and corporate, what are some of the things they're faced with?
if I were to step back and look at it, I would say that it's the speed of change, technology, and how quickly you really need to act in order to be competitive. And so with that comes a lot of, on the business side though, a lot of the business acumen that would come along with it to be able to have your value prop, be able to speak your value prop, be able to go out there and sell yourself. The ability also to I say in terms of, I always say get to the next level, but really it's around the discipline, the consistency piece around it, and making sure you have the structures in place so that way you can thrive and be sustained.
So I'm going to go back because not all of our viewers are in corporate speak. So the value prop is the value proposition.
Value proposition.
And by that we mean?
Really in terms of your uniqueness, really getting in contact with the pain points of your target. So you're identifying your target, understanding the pain points, being able to connect to those pain points and showing the value that you bring and the benefit of working with you. So it's all about really how unique you are, because you can have several technology IT people, but then it comes down to, well, what's your true uniqueness? What makes you differentiated, and who do you serve?
And for the in the corporate community, they're faced with this also.
In the corporate community, it's really around the speed of which technology and how quickly you have to bring things to market. But also it comes down to, when you're looking at teams, I call it the TCC, the trust, collaboration, connection piece that comes along with it. And if you're not in sync in terms of everyone being aligned with the vision, the culture that allows people to take leadership, to utilize their strengths, develop their weaknesses, that's where you're going to get the true results. So it's really around looking at what the core beliefs are about the business, what are the experiences of the culture that they have to validate this. What actions you need to do differently to get those results. So it's not always focused on the results, but it's kind of like the how to get to the results.
And are you finding that, because there's two dynamics, and you're speaking on the people dynamic,
Yes.
and I love organizational design and organizational strategy. So I like to look at the structure and the systemic nature of how change happens, how cultures form. So there is this tension, as you say, with, do more faster. But is the culture, are you finding in the corporate world, is the culture really conducive to that? Because I know the people are seeking you out to say, I'm being asked to do X, but sometimes I find there's not alignment between what people are being asked and where the culture is. So can you touch upon that?
Yeah, I think you hit that nail on the head also, especially when you're looking at in the space of like healthcare, for example, where you do have the compliance and regulatory pieces that come into play, where you are told that you need to do X, Y, be more entrepreneurial, create more. But then you have the regulatory piece kind of holding you back, saying, wait a minute, we need to see proof first, before we can put that out there. So yeah, I do believe that there is the yin-yang, like you said, in terms of that what the culture allows versus what you're being kind of told, and how do you marry the two. And it really, I think it comes from leadership, the senior leadership, in terms of how they communicate it, but not only communicate it, but how you live it. And in terms of the actions that they present, the experiences that they allow to help see, validate and help see that there's proof in that pudding that what I said is that here's how we're going to do it. And then actually celebrating those successes of those individuals who are living it and breathing it and getting the results through this whole new culture that they've allowed.
Yeah, so there's a pathway that you're talking about. And I think you've touched on, one is you've got to state what the message is, then identify leaders, and they don't all have to be up here.
Right.
Some of the leadership could be informal leaders at the mid-level, but they're influential people. They figure out how to operationalize that message, and they create the path by which people can see how it's done. And I call that, walking the talk.
Yep.
So they're walking the talk, meaning that they've got the message and now they're actually implementing it. And then identifying who those people are so that they can be, to your point, celebrated.
Right.
So that other people say, oh, this is the way this gets
Absolutely.
done, and this is being, supported and recognized and celebrated, so I can then do it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's the key thing is not only the experiences that you're creating, which is what you're basically saying, the celebration piece around it, and really owning those the beliefs and changing those beliefs to enable them to say, aha.
Exactly, exactly. Now, you touched on something else in terms of entrepreneurship, and I want to speak about it as it relates to you personally.
Okay.
So, you have a pharma background, worked in a corporate setting, and you chose to go outside to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
What led to that?
Yeah. For me, it's interesting because I think it starts from way when I was really younger.
Okay.
I'm an immigrant, and around that, the conversations at home, my parents were staunch educators, but not only that too, they also had a business on the side. So the conversations in the home was always about business in terms of revenue, expenses, something. But you always heard that conversation around, and growing up, really the key things that what I remember at least is in terms of business efficiencies, relationships. How do you negotiate? Because I was always on those calls with my parents when they were doing their business. So I think that was kind of in my bones and kind of ingrained,
Right.
just from those experiences alone.
Right.
And then while doing my corporate gig, I started this the tutoring company. I can't believe it's 8 years ago.
Wow.
And we operate out of Dayton, Broward County. But that was really the turning point too, because it was, like I said, doing a strategy, doing something like 1,000 miles away, understanding a whole different type of environment and culture, and putting together the structures in place. I have the operations, the finance, the marketing, the sales, the graphics designer, all in one. And so for me, that was sort of also my first kind of foray into that business, and I really, really enjoyed it. So coming full circle again in terms of what I'm doing currently, it was really around what are the themes that resonate with me, and so service, helping others grow, going back to my core values about thriving, sustainability, integrity piece, and just being really proactive about what you're doing, and collaboration, which is what I love. All ties right in. So this is like a perfect fit for me to do this.
That's great. So now, how do your clients find you? And it sounds like you have two, and you may have more than that, but at least two distinct client groups. You help small business, and then you help corporate. So how do they find Simone?
Okay. Great question. I do a lot of networking and a lot of referrals work comes my way, but in terms of the client that comes towards me, I would say from the entrepreneurial side, they're the type A individual on that hamster wheel going miles and miles and miles, and they're getting at results and they're doing the actions, but they're maybe not getting the desired results. So it's a matter of taking them off that hamster wheel and having them sit back, do that 360 assessment of their business. I call it power leaks. They like to find out where are your power leaks in your structures. And the key thing with me is that once we've identified what those power leaks are, I have a team that comes in and will help them, in terms of seal those leaks and come up with strategies in areas that may be beyond my expertise to support them in that realm. So that's one aspect of it. I am also a minority-owned and women-owned certified corporate company. So from that respect also, working with the leaders, with the diversity suppliers, and showing them my capability statements and doing that networking in that space also helps in terms of that piece.
Oh, great, great. And so that tells me who you serve and kind of why they find you. When you provide the support beyond your expertise, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay.
Is that finance, marketing? What is that?
Right. In terms of when I do the business strategy piece, it's really around the marketing, sales, and the communication strategy piece. So I'm looking at their business plans, working on pitch decks if they're looking to find funding. When it comes out of that realm, then if for example, their accounting piece of it, where they're not really putting together a good P&L. So they really don't understand their ins and their outs. I can help them to a certain degree, but then in terms of establishing structures moving forward so you can start doing metrics and adding metrics to your business, that's where I would bring in the accountant, for example. If you're looking at it from the valuation piece of your business, then that's when I'm bringing in the finance person for that piece. So it all depends if it's, like I said, in terms of what their needs. If it's a supplier chain issue, that's not me. I know who to bring in, though, to help you bring in those things. So it just depends upon what the leaks are in their business and what they think their needs are versus what the reality is in terms of after we've gone through that assessment of the business, and it's kind of like, oh, I didn't think about that. So that's kind of nice to have that piece around
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you then share with us one of your success stories, one of the ones that you're most proud of?
Yeah. It was, well, I'm not saying names, I can't,
No.
But essentially the key issue around this one was in terms of how to, what I loved about this piece is that it was the healthcare professional who wanted to do entrepreneurship. So I'm like, yes, this is great.
It mirrors you.
And it was in an area where it was totally out of the box. So you'd never thought about that. But in actuality, when you look at it from working from the ideation phase with an individual all the way up to the funding piece was the fun piece. Helping them put together that business plan and really drilling them down on the parts that they really didn't like, the financial pieces and the team. How do you want to put your team together? And all these other things around the circles that I know that the VCs are looking for that would definitely help her get to that point so she can pitch. So really partnering with her, worked with her for about a good 6 to 9 months on this, and then to actually see her stand and pitch her business to this venture capital person, that was amazing. So
wonderful. Yeah. And was she funded?
She has a lot more work to do. She's got a lot of feedback, but the frame remains that to get her to that point was what.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And she got good feedback around it also.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. That's great. So, one of the things we had said in the onset is talk a little bit about you, your business, the clients that you help, and that was a great example of a client that you've helped. We're also in a political climate that affects business, both in a corporate realm as well as in a small business realm. And we ourselves as coaches who are in the helping profession, I like the phraseology that you have, we're impacted by what we see out there, both with our clients, the corporations that we're, working with. We can see the stress level of, as you said, they're being asked to do more with less. They're being asked to come up to speed on new technology. And, there's just layer and layer and layer and layer of change with speed and, teaming. And maybe everybody doesn't get along. Right. Collaboration is a great word, but it's not, you may not be able to collaborate with people that you soon discovered they have some different views that you weren't aware of, or, rudeness has become okay. And so let's talk about that. Yeah. How do we rejuvenate ourselves? How do we, after, a tough day at work, how do we come back and gather ourselves?
Absolutely. We'll definitely have some chocolate.
Absolutely.
But what I do, I like consistency and being very regular. So for me, in the mornings, the first thing I do is I get up and I go to the gym, and that's like my coffee, and I'll do that like 4 days a week. So that's the first thing that kind of helps. And I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about anything. It's just me, the treadmill, and that's it. And my tunes.
Right.
But outside of that, also, I do hear you in terms of that tough day. And one thing I also do is a lot of meditation weekly. So I do incorporate that. So when I preach it, I am doing it, and I find that really helps. And it doesn't have to be for a long period of time. It's just a matter of I do 5-10 minutes. Sometimes I even do 30 minutes, depending upon how much I have and what I need in terms of my body. So that's another thing that I do. Another technique when I do get triggered and I'm in it, if they kind of say, that's when I do like focused breathing, and I'll just close my eyes and just focus on my breathing and just count backwards to 10 very slowly. And then that helps me to kind of transition and get into that mindset, because I notice if I don't do that, then I'm in there in it, and I don't want to be in it. That's not why I'm there.
Right.
Right. And especially when you're talking about people of different ideologies, different thinkings, and things of that nature that may trigger you in terms of some things that they may say. That's definitely when I step back and I go, okay, I think I'm getting triggered. Let me just take a breather now and realize it's not about me. It's just them sharing how they feel in the space, and allowing it.
Right. No, I would agree. The key to kind of rejuvenation, and self-rejuvenation is, I agree, exercise, eating right, and meditation. And to your point, meditation could be for a minute, but it's also the consistency, so that you stay on your A game when you're disciplined and you're consistent. And maybe you can't do 30 minutes, but you do 10 minutes, and you make sure that you kind of got that check off the box. For me, I exercise every morning as well. I like to actually walk outside.
Oh, nice.
So I see the changes, and if it's raining or snowing or something like that, I still try to get out there, and I have shoes that, help me stay grounded so I don't slip and slide and fall and break something. But I think I think you're right about that. And I also try to read something that is inspirational. And I try to leave that with my clients as well, so that it's easy to become overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
It is easy. There's this pace of change is beyond fast. I mean, it is like a supercharged rocket.
Absolutely.
And you have to gain control. You have to have a sense of, okay, what am I going to occupy my mind with? Given that I have clients I need to satisfy, I have my own needs. I think we're both, we have families, so they have needs. And I want to be in the world, but not necessarily of the world. I want to operate there, but I don't want to become overwhelmed. Sometimes that means turning off social media. Sometimes that means turning off the news, but being in control of what you surround yourself with, I think is one of the keys. And that's what I share with my clients as well, because they are impacted by the same things you and I are impacted by. And we are experts at what we do, but that doesn't mean that we're infallible. We're human.
We are.
And so we have to shore ourselves, in order to be the best we can be for our clients.
Absolutely. And it really comes down to the self-care piece.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have you being the forefront, you cannot give, you cannot serve. You're just, an empty shell.
That's right.
And so that's, I think, the key thing for me also is around the self-care.
Yeah. Now you do speaking and writing, is that correct?
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I write, to keep connected to my pharmacy roots.
Yes.
I do I contribute some articles on a monthly, maybe quarterly basis to that community. So it can be anything, whatever I'm feeling, like I think accountability or around their career aspects and things of that nature I'll write about. But when it comes down to it, the things that I'm very passionate about is the leadership piece, which I do write about, essence, and really understanding the connection and the trust and collaboration that has to go forth, because you don't miss one of those components and everything can just, and then also when it comes down to it too, in terms of entrepreneurship, I love writing about that, and especially with the younger kids, and really exposing them to that at an early age, just to get the mindset and having them start thinking differently. And I do write about my passion for diversity and inclusion. So that's one piece that I also am ingrained in terms of really putting out there and sharing that. So those are some of the things that I do write about.
So how, is this through a blog that you do this, or do you have different venues and avenues where you write these pieces?
I write through the blog. I contribute to, so I have my blog and some things I post on my own LinkedIn page and my website, for example. And then also through the Pharmacy Times with them, I do contribute to them periodically. And then also through another organization where I'm able to post through Huffington Post. So I get some things done there too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, the Huffington Post is great, and they, take a variety of opinions.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have many things that you're juggling.
Yes.
And how do you keep track of it all?
I'll take a piece from Stephen Covey where he says, Steve Covey says, start with the end in mind.
Right.
So like for the beginning of the year, what I do is kind of map out what I want to see at the end of the year. And by every quarter, I put out certain themes that I want to either talk about, speak about, or whatever I feel my clients might be going through, and I can sort of express in different ways and have them hear it in different ways. So I do put my roadmap together and my little journey, and then from there kind of pick out, like on a very high level, but then look at it from a monthly basis in terms of what do I need to do to get to the end of the quarter. So I kind of, whatever I preach to my clients, I'm actually doing too. To make it, but that's pretty much what I kind of build that roadmap, and I also, like the discipline and the consistency piece around it, and really, I white wall everything. So in my room, in my office, I should say, I have this huge white wall where I just have everything broken down for the month. I do monthly webinars, so what am I speaking about on my monthly webinars? Who am I bringing in to share that? And so yeah, very organized.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, it's key. You've got to be organized to get it all done.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's where the gym comes in, to kind of help release all that.
Right. No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, Simone, it's been a pleasure having you on, and I know that you're going to a conference this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. At Montclair State University, they're having a panel on entrepreneurs and really talking about to the college students, sharing with them how to start a business from nothing. So it's going to be lots of fun just to sharing all those and hearing from the other panelists too in terms of their experiences. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great. That's great. Well, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come visit with us and to share your experiences, your clients, and who you help, and how you do self-care as well. It's really been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Karen. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to New Beginnings with Karen Delk.